Okay.
And there's, on each end of the road,
Virtual attenuation.
90.
Picking up at the river.
That's great. She goes, well, you're gonna have to pay cash, because we're not gonna do none of this system yet. And I said, okay, so I see this happen. I'm gonna pay the parking ticket, and then, of course, I got a receipt.
Wells, water wells, continued sound.
Steve, you're not allowed to go to Minnesota. You're always going to Minnesota.
That's right. You got to take us with you.
Why do you want to do this deal? You're always on vacation. I'm teasing.
Yeah, this one's might not be quite so good. We got mother-in-law with cancer.
Oh, that's something. Sorry to hear that.
Clock says 510. He says around 35.
We're live. You're on TV.
Hey, Mom. I remember when Joe Ball.
We're live, right?
So, David, are you wanting to do this deal again?
Mayor, we're live. We're live. We're live. We're live.
It's not 7 o'clock yet.
Okay. Just be careful what you say. Whatever.
There you go. You got to take it over. There you go. Now, are you getting health insurance as part of this deal?
I had my kids taken away by DHS, and we had to do a safety meeting. Upon my safety meeting, there was an advocate there. They talked to me, told me the services that they offered, and at that time,
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, would you please stand? And Councilman Channel, would you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Remain standing for our prayer, please.
Our Father in heaven, we want to thank you for this day and for the privilege of being able to be alive and to live in this community. We thank you for our nation. We thank you for our servicemen that are serving our country throughout the world, and we ask that you protect them tonight. I ask that you be with this meeting, be with this group of people in this room that serve this community, and I ask that you bless them. I pray that this meeting, that you grant them wisdom and understanding and clarity in each situation, that they can respond what is best for this community. And we just do ask your blessing upon each one. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Don. Good to see you again. Good to see you again. Call to order our City Council meeting of September 7th. Second item on our agenda is public comments, community announcements, or recognitions. Do we have any? We have none. Item number 3 is consent agenda, items A through I. A is the approval of the minutes of the City Council meeting of August 17th. B is the approval of budget amendment number 5, moving general funds, GPWA funds, capital equipment funds, and stabilization funds and airport funds. C is the approve the renewal of the Honor Park lease between the City of Guthrie and the American Legion. D is the approval of the Civil Defense Siren Maintenance Agreement between the City of Guthrie and Goddard Enterprises. E is the approval of the agreement between City of Guthrie, Logan County Services for temporary shelter care for juveniles. F is the approval of the cooperative service field agreement between City of Guthrie and the Regional Airport and the U.S. Department of Agriculture. G is consider approval to accept the assignment and assumption of agreement between CEC, Park Hill, and the City of Guthrie. H is approval of professional service agreement with Dr. Warden for to serve as the medical director for the fire department. And I is the approval of EMS agreement between the City of Guthrie and Logan County Emergency Medical Services Board of Trustees. I'll entertain a motion to approve those consent
Can I ask a quick question?
Question, absolutely.
On G, can somebody explain that one to me?
D.
G,
Oh, G.
assignment and assumption agreement with CEC Park Hill and the
Before we
City of
get
Guthrie.
that deep, can I ask?
Our consulting engineer at the airport, that group changed and went from one firm to another firm. We'd like to continue to use that same group of individuals.
Okay. That's all I needed. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Are we in the GPWA meeting that started at 7?
No, we're in the City Council meeting.
We flipped them this time.
Oh, another one of them deals just for me?
Yes.
Okay. I got you.
So we're City Council meeting.
Motion approved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Can I shoot?
Submit your votes. See the votes. Unanimous approval from all those present to approve consent agenda items A through I. Item number 4, continuation of the workshop. Actually, we don't need it.
It's not necessary.
Because we completed everything, so that's not necessary. Open a public hearing to review the fiscal year 2022 budget, general fund, miscellaneous funds. If there's anybody that wants to ask a question, this is your opportunity in public hearing. Hearing none, close the public hearing. Item number 6, discussion and possible action on resolution 2021-25, adoption of the fiscal year 2022 budget.
So
for
moved.
General fund
Second.
and miscellaneous. Have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion or questions? Submit your votes, please. See the votes. Unanimous approval from those present to approve the fiscal year 2022 budget as presented. Item number 7, Discussion, possible action to approve resolution number 2021-27, adopting the revised non-bargaining employment payment plan, and adopting, well, payment plan which includes the personnel policies and adoption of the city resolution 99-15. Leroy?
Our current pay plan had become dysfunctional, had not been maintained, and had not been followed for a number of years. So this is a revision that sets the floor with a minimum of $15 an hour for full-time employees, and our non-bargaining employees were adjusted based on their years of service on the new pay scale. They didn't all start step one. And it shows each position where they're classified in the pay plan, 2.5% steps between each step in the pay plan. And this pay plan has been incorporated in the budget that you just adopted. Be glad to answer any questions.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes, please. See the votes. Unanimous approval for those present to approve resolution 2021-27. Item number 8, discussion and possible action to authorize city staff to renew a contract with United Health to provide medical, dental, and vision insurance, and Dearborn National to provide life, AD&D insurance coverage for the fiscal year. Kristen?
Yep. During the break, I handed out some spreadsheets that outlined the benefits and the options that we had for FY22. United Healthcare came out to be what we feel is the best option for our city employees. It's the identical plan to last year for health, dental, and vision, and no change to life insurance to Dearborn either. I'd be happy to answer any specific questions that you guys have, but bottom line, as Leroy mentioned during the budget hearing, it's about a 9.34% increase from FY21 to 22 in order for us to maintain the same plan, same benefits.
I'd like to explore city council being put on this plan.
Okay.
Seriously. I've talked to Leroy about it. I'm not kidding.
I would think maybe that could be assigned to our finance committee to work with Kristen and maybe even our city attorney, because I think we'd have to look at our charter to make sure that our charter allowed that as a benefit. Other cities do that.
Yeah.
And I think it could be warranted as a benefit. But I think we need to, one, review the charter and make sure it's allowed, and number two, work with Kristen to see the opportunity to add council members, opportunity to be covered by our employee health insurance.
Okay, good.
So we'd have to have a finance meeting before open enrollment?
Open enrollment's October, so that'd be really ambitious.
You say ambitious.
About as ambitious as they come.
I'll definitely work with Leroy and see what that looks like.
Okay.
I would think that
I'm actually on the finance committee, and I can make myself available at any time.
Okay.
I would think that, and I forget the correct terminology, but I would think even if it's after the enrollment date,
You
if
can.
it was
It's a
determined,
special event.
it is an event that would create an opportunity for an additional enrollment. I forget the fancy term for that, but.
And Kristen, this covers full-time and part-time?
Just our full-time.
Just full-time?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay.
Yep. So that smaller sheet is an anticipation of if all full-time employees, if we were fully staffed, took all of the insurance, which we've got. Of course, we've got some folks that are not staffed, some open positions, and some folks that just opt out of the insurance for various reasons. So that the smaller page shows the budget reflected based on 126 employees. That's everybody had it. We were fully staffed. The larger spreadsheet shows the budget numbers based on who's enrolled currently as of the time that we got the quotes.
So could we get $15 an hour too?
Pushing your luck,
While we're at it, we might as well ask that.
pushing your luck.
Really pushing the envelope.
About 15 a year, that would be at least
That
a
is a huge increase.
If there comes a time you're worth it, leave it.
I have read some things where insurances were going up significantly more than 10%, so I salute you and your team whoever
Absolutely.
negotiated this, because that's, I think that's pretty good.
And I give a lot of that credit, or all of the credit, honestly, to Benchmark Financial. They did a great job negotiating for us this year. Last year, Leroy did a really smart thing and negotiated a 12% cap on health insurance. And then Benchmark took that a step further and negotiated that even further down to 9.5%. So they did a really great job
I
for
see
us this year.
Benchmark in the back.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's the one smiling back there.
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your vote.
Thank you.
Unanimous approval then for all those present, councilmen present, to move forward with that plan for insurances. Item number 9, discussion possible action to confirm mayor's nomination to the park board. Take these individually. Appointing Colleen Golightly for a 2-year term through June of 2023. I think you all have seen her application.
Leroy's got a question.
Yes, sir.
When you get ready for discussion, I've got some items to point out.
Okay. We're taking them individually.
Yes,
Okay.
I still have comments.
Okay.
So do you want to
On
make
A or B?
Well, I think he's waiting for a motion on this.
So moved.
Have a motion,
Second.
For
a
A.
motion and a second.
For A.
Now discussion for A.
Okay, I just wanted to point out, technically, these are unexpired terms that end on June 7th, 2022. On the agenda and on the staff cover letter, it says to appoint him through June 6, 2023, which is fine if you do that, but technically, these terms started back in 2020 and end on June 7th, 2022.
Because they've been vacant that long.
Correct. And so my recommendation on the first motion would be, so you don't have to come back in 8 months, would be to appoint Ms. Golightly, am I saying that
Golightly
correctly?
correctly.
To fill the unexpired term through June 7th, 2022, and then subsequently appoint her for an additional 2-year term through June 4th, 2024, so that we've got it covered, don't have to come back in 9 months, do this again, and then you still have it staggered, where you'll have 3 up in 23 and 2 up in 24.
So we're going to amend the motion.
Who had the motion?
I did, I'll
Yeah,
amend it.
will you accept that?
Yes.
And you had the second? You accept that amendment? Okay. Any other discussion? Submit your vote. See the vote. Unanimous approval from council present. Then to appoint Ms. Golightly for a continuing existing term, which goes to June 7th of 2022, and then for a full 2-year term to June 7th of 2024.
June 4th.
And then 9B, this is the reappointment of Van Cordray to the Park Board. He's already served 2 full terms.
I want to, go ahead, I want to talk about that when you're
Okay.
done.
Has already served 2 full terms under the resolution 2020-18. The council can waive our restriction of 2 consecutive terms on the board, and that's the nomination, is to appoint.
But it's not just for this one, it's for going forward, it would no longer be there, the restriction would be gone?
No, just on this appointment.
Okay.
It's just on this appointment. And we've had a couple of those in the past. But this would be for Mr. Cordray.
See, I've tried to set the precedent where we just get rid of that. If people want to serve, we let them serve.
You know,
Okay, and we haven't done that, and we should have done it. I used Van as an example of that because he is an exemplary park board member, but it's real hard for me to go for this since we're not getting rid of the whole deal.
I think that would be a separate.
Well, then I'd like to table, I'd like to table, make a motion to table Van
Wait a minute.
until we come back to it.
Leroy's going to ask a question.
I think this one might bear some additional consideration because the park board is only 2 years at a time.
True.
And the other boards that we've dealt with, similar to you're talking about, have 3-year terms. So when they get a 2 years or 2 terms, they get 6 years. In this case, in the park board, when you limit them to 2 terms, they only get 4 years. So I think this one is a little unique compared to the others.
But I still want to take up the discussion of this
Sure.
term
And-
limit deal anyway.
And that could be another. I just pointed out, this one's a little unique because the terms are only 2 years long instead of 3 years.
Well, can somebody please explain what the purpose of that is? Why we have the
Well, there's,
limitation on terms?
there's at least 3 of us sitting here
Because-
that voted for this about 4 years ago,
5, something like
5
that.
years ago.
Because
Put the restriction on
Put
it?
the restriction on it, so that there would be an opportunity, well, let me just
To
speak for
quit
myself.
running retreads.
An opportunity for new vision, new blood, if you will, and not somebody that.
Well, but what's happened with that is that there's not enough people to fill the opportunity, so that kind of blew up on us. And when we make bad decisions, as good business people, we ought to be able to say that was probably not the best decision being made. And I was part of making that
I think
decision.
we can, and I was too.
Yeah, so,
I was too.
with that being
Okay.
said, I'll make a motion for Van.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second then for Mr. Cordray to, under the provisions of the resolution 2020-18, to have a 3rd consecutive term, 2-year term.
What we do is the same where it is for 9 months to fill out this term and plus 1 more, like we did that, so that they're all the same. And they end the
Who gave
same.
the motion?
Brian did.
Get it. You're just amending the dates.
Brian, will you accept that?
I really want to address, we can, I think, come back to that. I really want to address this, getting rid of this term limit thing before we move any further on it.
Well,
I
you've
think
been-
that it's fine like it is.
Okay, okay.
He can come back when that.
You don't have to accept the suggestion.
Yeah, I don't accept that.
Okay,
Okay.
we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes. See the votes. We have a vote of 5 to 1, so the motion would carry. Yes, the motion still carries. To appoint Mr. Cordray for another 2-year term to the Park Board.
So, point of question, I guess, for clarification. If I understand correctly, the council members would like to consider city attorney adopting an amendment to the current ordinance to consider doing away with the term limits?
Yes. I
It's
would.
been requested by Councilor
Okay.
Butler.
If there are any other changes you want to make to that ordinance, I think city attorney or Kim could send out the current ordinance for you to review, see if there's anything else you want to talk about changing, and then city attorney could draft one for future council meeting to consider that.
That's a good idea.
Well, what happens if you have new blood that wants to be a part of and they come forth and so there needs to be a process to give them an opportunity to be considered.
I would
And
say
replacing those that have been on there for a while.
the city council would still control, it would be their decision, it just wouldn't be controlled by an ordinance. The city council can always decide to appoint new individuals rather than reappoint existing
As long
ones.
as-
But we've
yeah,
got
okay.
some that have been on there 34 years and refused to leave.
Yeah.
Whose fault is that?
Let's,
These guys.
we'll have that in-depth discussion when it comes up on the.
Well, but we also have
next
boards
agenda.
that don't have head count because of it.
We will discuss that. You're absolutely right.
That's the
Absolutely right.
kicker that I'm,
You're absolutely
that's my
right.
position.
Okay, let's move on to when it comes up as an actual agenda item for
That'll be the juicy.
2 weeks. Okay, item number 10, discussion possible action to adopt and approve ordinance number 3360, closing a 20-foot by 300-foot alley. Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you indicated, this is for an alley closure. It's on the basically east central part of town on the very eastern University Avenue. It's generally over by South Hazel and University Avenue. The applicant owns most of the property, I think actually outside 1 or 2 properties in that entire block. And so they were wanting to close the alley because they want to go through the process to vacate it so they can combine all of their properties into one. Because as it sits now with an alley, you can't physically combine all the properties. There were no objections from the utilities, and the city does not have any water or sewer utilities there as well, so there was no objections from the city nor the utilities.
Was there any objection by the other 2
No,
owners?
no, but as with every case like this, all property owners within 300 feet were notified, so there was notification provided to not only them, but also others in the area.
Okay.
So how does that combine the property, out of curiosity? I mean, I know.
Yeah, because right now that you physically have that right of way that sits there, so you can't, because there's properties to the north and south. It's kind of like the typical blocks we have over here, where you have properties on the north and the south.
This alley's behind all of these properties.
No, it runs right in the middle of it, so they own property to the north and to the south.
You
Yeah,
can't
and so
put a
by
building
getting,
in the middle
I
without
see.
Yeah,
putting it on
yeah.
top of the alley.
Okay.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
And a second? I'll second it. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
I'll vote Trent.
See the votes? Unanimous approval then to move forward with ordinance number 3360. Item number 11, discussion of possible action on a request for a Spirit Wing Aviation for the city of Guthrie to provide consent for the assignment of hangars 2 and 21 and the fuel system. Shalon? Leroy, who's taking that?
I will start it. Spirit Wing Aviation leases 2 hangars at the airport. They're identified as Hangar 2 and Hangar 21. I think you're all familiar with 2 hangars those are. And then they have a fuel system agreement that is tied into Hangar 21. We have received a request from the owner of Spirit Wing to assign those leases to new ownership. There are provisions in that lease that require the city to approve those assignments, but we cannot withhold approval unreasonably. There's really no clear standard set on what reasons you would object to this, if any. So it's pretty much based on a request from the owner to assign the lease somewhere else. He actually assigned a lease and be out of the lease. It'd be new ownership. And so I will let the owner, Spirit Wing, go first.
Identify yourself and address, please.
Calvin Burgess, and I guess in Guthrie, I live at the Dominion House. But actually, most of the time I live in North Texas. And a few years ago, my wife and I were able to purchase a big piece of property in East Texas that's very special to us. It's got almost unlimited water underneath it, so its value is extremely high. And so we are basically selling all of our worldwide assets and moving everything into that property. And that includes the Guthrie hangars. However, I have a jet program that unfortunately had to shut down because of the COVID thing, but it is about to resume again, and it is going to stay here. We have 2 buyers that want to purchase it. Bob back here, and another gentleman, Bob Bartman, I'm sorry. Yeah, and then the other one is a Marvin Pittman, but Marvin is very ill with COVID right now. He got that Delta variant, and he's going to survive, but otherwise he'd be here. Effectively, the southern hangar, the number 2, will be what Bob will run, and they will put it probably, I'm speaking for him in a way, but not, he can speak for himself, I'm wrong here. But I think their goal is to put about 4 corporate jets in it and run the jet fuel system out of it. And put in some corporate cars and some really nice stuff that will really upgrade the airport a lot. The second one, Marvin Pittman, he's an AI and an A&P, which means he's an inspecting authority and an aircraft mechanic. And he has all the licenses for some very specialized things like rebuilding landing gear, which is also the most expensive and the most profitable part of aviation, I think, if you're in that business, and avionics, and all those things really need to be in the Guthrie Airport. So he will be taking the hangar to the north and providing those services to the public, and likely maintaining some of the planes that will be put into the south hangar. It should greatly increase the fuel cells, particularly on the jet fuel. Should be good for the city, and we want to leave. We'll still be around off and on, but I want to leave it. I think we did a lot to get this airport moving years ago to try and get the runways extended. Part of that was doing these hangars so that there was a lot of things. But all good things have to come to an end sometimes. So that's what we've done. And so we have 2 very qualified, viable buyers, and then that's what we're asking for, is just an assignment of the leases.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. And
Oh, Leroy.
Staff has a couple recommendations on hangar number 2, and we would recommend that you approve it subject to the city attorney preparing a lease assignment document to be signed by the city, by Spirit Wing and Mr. Bartman, so there's an official agreement. And then the second thing we would recommend, there's currently an outstanding balance on the old CDBG EDI fund, about $30,800, and we would recommend that one of the requirements to assign this lease is that old loan be paid in full before the assignment of the lease.
So I'll amend it.
We'll work it out.
accept that.
And accept those changes.
So
Okay. All right, any other discussion? Okay, submit your votes. See the votes. Unanimous approval.
Thank you.
All council present then, to move forward with the assignment of hangars 2 and 21. And the
I've
fuel
got a
system.
different comment on 21, so that's just 2 I was talking about.
Oh,
So we're not done? We got to revote?
Yeah, I think we ought to treat them separately, and one would be assignment of lease on hangar 2.
Well, I motioned them together, so how do I split it?
Just make your motion relative to hangar number 2.
Okay, so motion is relative to hangar number 2, current motion.
accept that second? Okay. Any other discussion? We're just talking about hangar number 2, talking about a lease agreement that would be going through the attorney.
Payment of the
And
loan.
the payment of the outstanding balance. Okay? Okay, submit your votes. See the votes. Unanimous approval then for hangar number 2 with the amendment to work through the city attorney and the full payment of the outstanding balance of the loan. Now,
On hangar 21, I've got it broke into 3 things. This would be hangar 21.
Now, is that going to add the fuel system too, or is that a separate issue as
It
well?
will be a third item. This is just hangar 21. Hangar 21 lease, all we're recommending is, again, a lease assigned document prepared by the city attorney for signatures by Spirit Wing, Mr. Pittman, who is doing that lease, and the city of Guthrie. And that's the only recommendation we have on assignment of Hangar 21.
So moved on 21.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on Hangar 21. Any other discussion? Submit your votes. Submit votes. Unanimous approval for those, from those present, to move forward with the change in Hangar 21, subsequent to a appropriate lease being reviewed by our city attorney. Fuel cell.
The third one would be dealing with the fuel system agreement. And again, two recommendations. One would be subject to the city attorney preparing a lease assignment agreement. But in this particular case, because right now the fuel system agreement is tied to lease 21, we think all four parties ought to sign this one. Mr. Pittman, Mr. Bartman, and because right now it's tied to 21, it's being moved to number 2, so we think all four parties ought to sign this agreement. Okay. The other thing that we would recommend is, and only if the tenants want it, is right now the fuel system agreement. It says Spirit Wing shall have the right to install 2 additional fuel storage tanks for its own commercial use, provided, however, Spirit Wing shall not be entitled to sell or dispense any 100 low lead fuel from either of these 2 tanks to any unrelated person or entity. Such storage tanks are to be solely for the use of Spirit Wing and its affiliates. This was written many, many years ago, and I think it lacks some clarity on the ability of who has these, the fuel system agreement on who they specifically can sell fuel to, who they can't. And we would recommend that that be clarified in this transfer agreement so it's clear what the rights of that individual has.
Let me clarify.
You want to come to the
Yes.
microphone, Ms. Burgess? Thank you.
I'm still the same guy.
Same address?
Same address. Okay, let me give you some history here. When the fuel tanks, the government decided in their infinite wisdom that we had to change all the fuel systems in all the airports about 15, 20 years ago. And the city of Guthrie did not have the funds to do it at that point in time. So I came forward with the proposal, and I had the only jet on the property. So I used to have a truck out there that I'd fill up my jet. So we came to an agreement with the city council to let me build fuel tanks for my own use. I also had 2 very fuel-thirsty, a Bomber and a P-51 Mustang there. So I was feeding my own planes with it. So part of the deal was that I would build 1 jet fuel tank and 1 100 low lead tank, but I would not sell the 100 low lead to anybody else, and that we've never done. And it was also so the city would get all the revenue off of the 100 low lead that was being sold through your own tank, and then I paid for your tank, and I put it in and did the whole thing there at a considerable expense. So those tanks, that's how it got to being there. And going forward, what the intention is now is not to compete with the jet fuel, this 100 low lead that the city sells, but the tanks, we will leave the tanks, they will both become jet fuel, and we'll have a great backup of jet fuel. So we'd have roughly 16,000 gallons of jet fuel on the property instead of 8,000 is what we've been using out of my tank.
So there'll be no low lead.
The city has.
The city's low lead.
Right.
But,
You'll still have that. That's a self-service thing.
Right.
And there's a thing about 100 low lead. Most people want to buy 12 gallons at a time or whatever, and they top up their plane, and they want to save $1 a gallon. So a lot of the guys want to pump it themselves. And so that's just how 100 low lead has happened throughout the airport system at this point. But really, your revenue stream off of that stays exactly the same. The jet fuel will be basically as it is now, in a sense. We use it, we put it in our tanks, and then it's sold to whoever. And we have an agreement that we split the revenues with Crabtree. Okay, and then he's planning on doing a similar situation.
All right.
Does that make sense?
But what your recommendation is that be clarified in writing?
Yes, I think Mr. Bortman has a comment.
Hi, Bob Bartman, Weatherford, Oklahoma. Yeah, to clarify what Leroy is saying is, the language in there is the word affiliates. I would be the sole owner of the plane and fuel that plane only. There would be no affiliates. The people that I want to bring to that hangar, right now there's a B-1 bomber in there. I want to bring 4 or 5 people to put their jets in there, rent them out, create more traffic for the city of Guthrie, more revenue for the city of Guthrie. So I think what Leroy is concerned about, and I 100% agree, is those are not my affiliates. They may be tenants of mine in the hangar, but they would fuel through the city of Guthrie and like any normal person that would land at the airport. My aircraft would fuel at the rate that we discussed because it's my personal aircraft. But that's the long-term, and really my long-term goal with the airport, with the city's hopefully long-term relationship and partnership. I spoke to Glenn Crabtree today, is that on my cost, I own a real estate development company, is to, at my cost, kind of take that property and just give it an uplift to bring more traffic, reasons for people to fly to Guthrie, Edmond Regional Airport versus everywhere else. And I think Glenn told me we sold about 45,000 gallons last year. I think it's very simple. If we put 4 aircrafts in Hangar 2, that number goes up exponentially. So it's a win-win for everybody. Thank you.
So my request was, because there is some lack of clarity in the wording, that the parties signing this, that our city attorney works with them to make sure that maybe it's spelled out a little clearer going forward in the future and incorporate that language in the assignment agreement.
So you can work with our city attorney and resolve it. So I make a motion to approve based on putting together a clear agreement.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Mitch votes. Steve votes. Unanimous approval from all of the councilmen present.
And we appreciate you guys, by the way. Our community does.
So what happens to the B-1 bomber?
I don't know.
They can stay as long as they want. I mean, I've heard that they're going to be out sometime early next year.
Oh, okay.
I've got several tenants ready to come. And in a perfect world, we would all like that. Sure. They're flying 250 hours a year. So I'm hoping to have another meeting with all of you.
I just thought it was cool, so I just wondered where it's going to go.
Exciting opportunity and potential.
Sure.
All right, item number 12, discussion possible action on the FHWA project, Logan County Transportation Alternatives TAP grant for streetscapes. Kenny, you taking that? Leroy, you taking that? Okay.
And the agendas packet, they can be kind of small.
You talk. Got it folded in kind of a nice little origami way.
Fit your notebook. Oh, yeah, I see. That's what you said. Turns it into $100 bill.
Little history on this, of course, this is a 2016 grant that's been around for a while, and there was a lot of concerns about curb extensions on Oklahoma and Harrison at Division. It went through the Section 106 historic review, and SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office, rejected the inclusion of the curb extensions and plantings along Division, and with using federal highway money, the project could not move forward without reevaluating the project and designing it in a way that accommodates the comments from SHPO. We also looked at maybe relocating these funds to the Harrison Street Bridge project. Worked with ODOT for quite a while. It seemed promising, and then they denied that. So what we're back to is a streetscape project that still serves a purpose, but it won't do everything we originally intended. The purpose of the curb extensions or bump outs was to provide better safety enhancement for people crossing the street, maybe some beautification. Those elements won't be there, but we still will get drainage improvements along Division. And this project runs from the alley north of Oklahoma Avenue to the alley south of Harrison Street on Division. And all sidewalks runs shall be stamped concrete, brick pattern, colony red, which we use down the park. All crosswalks shall be stamped concrete as well. All corners shall be stamped concrete. The alleys will be real brick pavers, and the drives will be concrete. And again, as I said, the curb extension or the drainage will be improved. What we need tonight is one motion to authorize us to go forward with this concept to ODOT and to SHPO to get their final approval, so then we could put this project out for bids. And the second one, because this has been going on for 2016 and we've asked our architect to redraw this about 50 times, they've got additional expenses and they are asking for the sum of $65,330.46 for additional services, which I think is probably warranted as much as we've had them redraw this project over the last, 5 years?
I'd pay that much to never have to hear about it again.
Motion to approve both together.
Second.
Can.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes. See the votes. Unanimous approval from all council present. Then to move forward with the project modification and also to execute the additional services of approximately $65,000 to Latera Studios. Item number 13, city manager report.
No additional reports.
Item 14, comments by city council. Vice Mayor Case.
No, I don't think I have anything.
Councilman Williams.
Welcome to the Bartman and goodbye, unfortunately, to, I still Spirit Wind, I guess. But Calvin Burgess has been a great addition to this city for quite some time ago, and I hate to see him leave, but all good things come to an end.
Councilman Taylor.
Staff, hey, I appreciate all of y'all's hard work on everything, from all, whether it's, Tenny's operation all the way down to fire chief, chief of police.
Down to the fire chief, all the way down to the fire chief.
Yeah, all the way down to the fire. Oh, yeah, and one last thing. Happy birthday, Jim Case.
Well, thank you.
That's it.
And anniversary.
Oh, yeah, and happy anniversary as well.
Councilor Guthrie.
Great job on the budget, everybody. It was painless this year, and I think it's a good one. So that's all I've got.
Councilman Channel.
I didn't have one police chief question.
I'm still waiting.
And I only had a couple for Harlow. But since we're on it, Bothroyd's crying about the old body shop down on South Division that's ugly. Since we're going to beautify Division, we need to beautify that joint too.
But we need to beautify every entryway to our town is what we need to do. And if you go around, and I have, there's some that aren't near as inviting as others. And that main South Division is a main thoroughfare.
And you probably need to visit with Dan and Bill on that. I know the city looked at it one time and it was going to be cost prohibitive for the city to undertake that project. And now that we're maybe in a better financial situation, so you might want to visit with them to get the ball rolling on that one.
Anything else?
I'm good.
Okay. We've got a vacancy in the Guthrie Housing Authority board. Anybody interested in that? I think we still have airport a vacancy. Shalane, is that not correct? Okay. So at least 2 opportunities to get more involved with your community. Congratulations to everybody involved with the Jeep Fest, as well as the last of the Red Brick Nights for this year. Huge successes all around. I know we've got a big car show coming up at Mineral Wells. There'll be people coming in from all adjacent states, I understand, for it. It is big. Of course, we have the fantastic fly-in coming up on the 18th. And a great opportunity to come out and see your airport in full regalia, and kids get some opportunity to fly for free. So a great opportunity there. COVID is still with us, folks. If you haven't got the shot, consider getting it. And if you're in a compromised situation, wear the mask. I think we're going to be fighting this for a long time. Item number 15, consider approval to convene to executive session for the purposes of discussing the continuation of the continued employment of city clerk and treasurer, the judge, city judge and alternate judge, and the city attorney. All 3 positions. Have a motion. Looking for a second down here.
What? We know what you want.
Well, then say something.
I ain't doing it.
Tracy seconded it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Submit your votes. Unanimous approval then to move into executive session for those 3 positions. Thank you.
I just thought we'd do it publicly instead of doing it in executive session.
That one's waiting on Ken.
We're back, Chris. See how quick that was? 27 seconds.
That's a record.
It is.
And Dan's still talking.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion then to move back out of executive session, back into regular session.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See votes, unanimous approval from those present to move out of executive session back into regular session. Item number 17, consider action regarding city clerk treasurer.
Motion to retain.
Second.
A motion and a second to retain. Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
Unanimous approval to retain city clerk treasurer. Item number 18.
Motion to retain the judge too.
Second.
So moved. Second,
Motion
sorry.
and a second to retain judge and alternate judge. Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
Unanimous approval to retain city judge and alternate judge. Number 19, consider action on the city attorney.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second.
See, he wasn't going to do it. I'm for you, man. I told you.
Submit your votes, please.
All votes are in.
I'm torn.
We have one that's not sure. Semi-unanimous approval then to retain the city attorney. With that being last item on our agenda, we're adjourned. Call to order our Guthrie Public Works Authority meeting of September 7th. Item number 2 is the consent agenda, items A and B. A is the approval of the minutes of the Public Works Authority meeting of August 17th. B is the approval of the budget amendment number 5, moving funds, general fund, the GPWA fund, capital equipment, and general stabilization and airport funds.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the consent agenda items. Any question on any of those items? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval of those present then to approve consent agenda items A and B. Item number 3, enter public hearing on the fiscal year 2022 budget for the public works and miscellaneous funds. Anybody in the public present that wants to make a statement? Hearing none. Close the public hearing. Item number 4, discussion possible action on resolution 2021-26, adopting the fiscal year 2022 budget for the Guthrie Public Works Authority and the miscellaneous funds.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval from the council present to approve resolution 2021-26. Item number 5, confirmation of city council action to approve resolution 2021-27, revising the non-bargaining employee pay plan.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval from the council present to approve resolution 2021-27, adopting the non-bargaining employment play plan.
Play plan?
Play,
Yeah.
pay, and
Play
play.
plan?
Pay,
Lot
play,
of
and
them.
play.
We'll get there. Item number 6, confirmation of city council to authorize city staff to renew contracts with United Health to provide medical, dental, and vision, and Dearborn National to provide life, ADD coverage for all city employees.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Nope.
Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
Let's see the votes. Unanimous approval from those councilmen present to approve those insurance carriers to continue on with coverage for our great employees. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we're adjourned. Thank you very much.